case you want. I always save all the web pages up for my topics and put them in a zip file for people if they want to look it over.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a RedEye streaming number 41. Hopefully I sound okay. Right now I'm here with Eldritch God. You do have a channel. You want to throw that out there? And then open up with the plagiarism issues with Star Trek Discovery, STD, if you will.
Oh, I got you. Unthorf Neverborn, the Abyss That Slumbers. We do Eldritch Rants on Saturdays. Tonight, everybody's busy, so I'm over here. If anybody out there is looking to start their own channel and looking for help, feel free to give me a buzz. Go over to the channel The Eldritch God, and we'll see about helping you out. That's what we do. We help other people get their channels going when they're new at this because, hey, nobody helped me. Any rate, moving on to topic of discussion. Everybody knows I hate Star Trek Discovery. I could go on about it, but I'm not here to talk about the show itself. I'm here to talk about the evil, despicable writers. Specifically that they are plagiarists. Apparently, a man wrote a admittedly point-and-click adventure based around, get this, tardigrades. Giant tardigrades that using glowing spot-filled fields could teleport humanity off of planet Earth and out into space. Now, admittedly, his setting was 20,000 years BC, but when you start going down this article where he says, no, I created my storyline a full year before Star Trek Discovery even admitted that they were going to create their series, the comparisons on his webpage are absolutely astounding. Like the scene where the tardigrade wraps around the guy and then teleports away in his game, it pretty much matches their CGI of their teleporting tardigrade. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but they've got this thing called the Spore Drive. That is not inside this guy's point and click. Okay, so admittedly, that isn't there. The Spore Drive is their creation, although I could go on into how stupid the Spore Drive is to begin with. But then we go down to the pictures of the other characters in his point-and-click adventure, and the picture of Yolanda from December 2014 looks an awful like Michael Burnham. And then their homosexual couple that he has in his shows, Aziz and Masick, well, it's amazing how much they look like Dr. Hugh Colbert and Paul Stamets. Now, in their defense, yeah, it could be just a coincidence. Somebody could have just stumbled across this concept and ran with it. But the fact of the matter is it's close enough that people who are fans of his game were calling him up and saying, hey, did you steal your idea from Star Trek Discovery? At which point he had to come out and go, no, I had my idea a full year before they even started. You know what? I'm sorry. If it was anybody else, if they were doing anything else, if they had built up some goodwill, I might go, this is just a weird coincidence, or somebody just saw this once and then they got all hung up on it, and maybe the idea was in the back of their head and they just threw it out and somebody else all ran with it, okay? Parallel development does happen. Not with this group. This group's, when their scripts are horrible. Their scripts are incredibly predictable, and I'm going to do it right now. They just rescued some lieutenant from some Klingon prison ship. I'm going to tell you right now, that is the albino Klingon in disguise. I'm calling it right here. I'm calling it right now. Everybody else agrees, but I could go through the list of reasons. I'm telling you, that guy is a Klingon in disguise. And I knew they were going to do the Klingon in disguise thing from the first, episode 3, where they had a tribble on what was his name? He's the guy. I call him Captain Sinister.
Yeah.
Captain Sinister's desk. Like, they had a tribble. I'm like, wow, that's a Klingon detector. I wonder why he's a Klingon detector on his desk. Probably because at some point in the future, he's going to have to detect Klingon.
Well, no, and the funny thing is, the tribbles weren't even known of until TOS. But that's not the point. First off, I want to get back to this game. This game was like a cult classic, right? Like, nobody really...
Oh, yeah. People loved it. People loved it.
If I could interject for a moment, you are roboting a little bit, Mad Dodge.
Oh, yeah. I'm hearing it now that he's mentioning it. You might want to check your connections, but... But yeah, I'll go on about the original song a little bit. He's going to come back, I guess.
So,
The original point and click was pretty. I didn't play it myself, but I've looked it over, and it looks pretty highbrow. For a point and click, it looks like he had some really cool concepts out there, and that was the point of his, to like, get you thinking. So there's people out there who liked it, but nothing about Star Trek Discovery gets you thinking. Nothing.
what kind
And
of
our host is back.
context are we speaking about? Someone stole
The
ideas
concept of
from.
teleporting tardigrades, the whole spore drive thing from Star Trek Discovery, it looks like they plagiarized a good portion of it.
So someone who made this point-and-click game plagiarized from Discovery.
No, the other way around. The point and
I
click
see.
game was a year before Discovery.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and there's so many characters that he pointed out that look like the characters in the show, and I'm like sitting there and going, okay, you know what? If this was anybody else, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt. Star Trek
Yeah.
Discovery has used up all its goodwill for me. Okay, they have used so many tropes, so many reused stuff, so many attempts to be edgy. I mean, I could spend an hour just ranting about them, and they don't deserve it. But plagiarizing from some indie game developer, that's a new low. I hope the guy sues. I hope he wins. And if CBS is smart, they'll call this guy up and say, "We're terribly sorry. In the interests of goodwill, we're going to make you an offer to buy the rights to your game just to settle this right now." If they are smart, they will do that immediately, because I don't care if they did steal it or not. This looks horrible. It looks bad. It looks really, really bad.
Well,
And
yeah.
this is a show that already has so much negativity.
Can you hear me now? Is it?
Oh yeah,
working?
you're much better.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Especially with CBS's hard line stance on indie fan films, that they sued Star Trek. Was it Continuum? No, it wasn't Continuum. It was
Arnax. Axnar.
Yeah, Axanar. And they totally shut that down.
Oh, and if I can make a note, Star Trek continues the fan-made episodes based on the original TOS series. Somebody tuned it on to me. I think they've been doing real good. They just released a new episode on the 18th. I think it's quite promising. I mean, I think these are people. If I had my way, I would shoot everybody working on Star Trek Discovery and haul those writers and that cast member over to that show. Because they are doing, with a shoestring budget and cheesy 1960s style, backdrop crap, 1,000 times better than Star Trek Discovery. Yeah, so now we got two different fan-created series out for Star Trek. We've got The Orville, and now we've got Star Trek Continues. Both doing better than the actual canon.
Oh, Seth MacFarlane's Orville, right?
Oh, yeah. At first I thought it was going to be a joke, but the more I watch it, he does that thing that MASH did. MASH originally was all comedy, and then about season 2 or 3, they moved over to there's never really a happy ending. And that worked. And this is what the Orville is. Even though they win, there's always that moment. Remember Taxi? Taxi never had a happy ending. They had, we won, but it was never a win. And it made it seem real. Yeah. He's done a real job of capturing that for the Orville.
Yeah,
and I think it really works for a series.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of the kind of adventurous aspects. Going to see, it's I don't know exactly how to put it. It's modeled somewhat after the older Star Trek series. However, it has a modern twist and a kind of a more modern comedy, and that's what I can at least appreciate about it. I certainly enjoy it, and I'm personally not a huge Star Trek fan. I don't know much about it. I only watched, a couple, I think 2 or 3 Star Trek generations with my dad, but I never watched anything outside of that.
Well, I am a Trekkie. I watched a lot of Star Trek and still do. Could this not be the mirror universe? And that's why they have this weird technology and the weird looking Klingons.
I wish that was the case, but if it was, it doesn't match up with the mirror universe canon. because the mirror universe canon, they had an entire 2 episodes in Enterprise that set things that would have been before this and would have drastically changed things. I mean, you could potentially do it, but it just doesn't match up because the Vulcans should be slaves. The Vulcans are supposed to be treated by like total shit at this point. Okay, if this is a mirror universe, it's a weird mirror universe. It's like a broken mirror universe. It's somewhere between the mirror universe and the real universe. Like I mean, if it's a different universe, it doesn't fit anything. I mean, and I wish they had just done that. I wish they had just said it's a parallel universe. You know, if you come right out and said this is a parallel universe, right off the bat, like you wouldn't be having any lore issues. If you set this 100 years after Star Trek, you know, the last Star Trek series, no problems. Where they put it is, it's, and everything that they do in the series has been done later by the lore. So this series is the first one to do everything. They're the first one to encounter the Gorn. They're the first ones to find tribbles. They're the first ones to develop super teleport. I mean, they're the first, which in my opinion is just a way of telling you this series is better than everybody else because it's better than everybody else because it's done everything everybody else has done, but better and first. And you don't do that. That does not impress me. If anything, that's just insulting me.
Yeah, I would have preferred that they set the new Star Trek immediately after the Dominion War and dealt with the reconstruction of Cardassia or something. Had maybe an unknown ship, you know, the Discovery is out there trying to help them and do political stuff that way through a lens of an aftermath of war. And that could have been done much better and really push their political agenda a little bit better. Not that they would sway me over to their SJW side, but it would be a better presentation of the obvious political agendas within the show.
Actually, if I can digress into Social Justice Warrior a little bit, I did binge watch Star Trek Continues. They rely heavily on the original series, but I like the material that they've had. They've done a really good job of staying within their canon. But there are 2 episodes, 7 and 9, ironically. And for those of you who know Star Trek Warrior, 7 of 9, gotcha. But episode 7 is The Winds or something or other. It's their pro-women social justice episode. It was pretty heavy-handed, but I will say this, it wasn't bad. Like, they had a social justice agenda, but it was in universe. Okay, I didn't agree with it. I don't think it fit. I don't think James T. Kirk fit. But I didn't entirely object to it because it was, in their version of the universe, it made sense. Okay, I don't think that episode actually fit, but that's neither here nor there. Episode 9 was clearly about immigration. But I will say this, I don't have a problem with it. I think episode 9 was amazingly well done. And the same actor who did Q showed up in their fan episode. And he was amazing. And he did it so well. And I will admit, like, you're sitting there looking at this and going, you know what? Within the setting, all of this makes sense. You're not hitting me over the head. You're not, you know, insulting me to my face. This is all makes sense. Now, I've got to tell you, episodes 7 and 9 are my 2 least favorites, simply because even though the 9 was done better than 7, it was really heavy-handed. The other ones, I like them all. In fact, the 10th one that just came out on the 18th. What a concept. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but it's pretty wow.
Well, I have a practical question. How are they still pumping out episodes when it's against the rules now and CBS?
It's totally for free. They are not making a dime. That's how they do it. It's completely 100% nonprofit. By the rules that CBS put out, as long as these guys are doing it completely out of pocket and they're getting no help from anybody and it's all funded by the staff, yeah. And understand, one of the main characters, in my opinion, everybody who's on that show is there because they love Star Trek and they always wanted to be in Star Trek. Like, whoever's doing Sulo is the guy who was from Mythbusters. And you know that guy made a ton of money. So I'm willing to bet a lot of these episodes are being funded by these guys. And the fact that Q Hughes showed up and out at no profit. He was not paid. Was the main leader of this planet. You're just sitting there going, wow, holy crap. And that guy's loaded too. So that's how it's getting done. CBS says you can't do this if you're, getting paid money. Okay, they're not getting paid money, but they've got some pretty deep pockets to make their series. And once they've already made all the sets, a lot of this at this point is just time. But if you want to see like a Star Trek new series done that's strictly Star Trek Continues is very good. I mean, admittedly, you're looking at something 10 episodes over 3 years. Okay, so don't expect the next episode anytime soon.
Well, no, and I would like to move on from Star Trek a little bit because 40 doesn't really know much about it. But
let's move on to something.
I was actually just about to say I don't. My interests are.
I would like to, real quick though. Sorry, 40, but I would like to stick with movies and with the Hollywood meltdown, with their SJW ways. Really, they have a total political bias, and you can tell. And also now it comes out that they're movie producers are raping people. When is it going to happen that YouTube actually becomes a platform to make these hour and a half movies and actually put it out there and then make money off of Patreon to fund your next movie? Is that the next wave, the next thing that might happen? Well, on a large scale. I know some
on a large scale, I'm seeing that YouTube could have, except YouTube has already sold out. They've sold out to the cable companies, thinking that the cable online is the new future, and it's not. Cable's dying. Cable's been dying. If you're on cable, you're an idiot. Cut the cord right now. Cut the cable. Get off cable. YouTube thought that they were their YouTube Red and their YouTube TV and whatever it is in the corner that nobody even touches was going to net them money. And by signing these contracts, they've sold their soul. These cable companies own YouTube now, whether YouTube likes it or not. And that's a lot of the reason why they've been getting all this pushback and all of these people getting demonetized and stuff. But it has nothing to do with YouTube. It has to do with the fact that YouTube brought these cable companies, these huge networks online, and these huge networks are basically saying, unless you're going to get rid of your contract with us, and we know how much money you have dumped into us, so you can't back out now without you losing your job, whoever was a part of this contract, you will do whatever we say. And they're the ones who are pushing to get rid of fake news. And that's the reason why the content creation part of YouTube is dying. I mean, it's hemorrhaging people. Minds would not be surviving right now if it wasn't for that contract. That contract is what's driving people away from YouTube over to Gab and Minds and VidMe and BitChute. I'm thinking BitChute is the one who's going to be the main contender here, though. If BitChute can figure out a way to monetize, they're going to take over. I have no doubt, because they're untouchable.
I know you guys, because I know 40 wants to talk, so you can go next, 40. Before we end up going into alternatives, what I mean is like a movie like The Blair Witch Project or Clerks 1. These movies could be made on a shoestring budget and released on your YouTube channel. And then you can get notoriety and a Patreon, and then maybe make another one and actually build a real career out of that. Don't you think that is still an option and might become more of one in the future? And go ahead, 40.
Yeah, please. By all means, I'm interested in your position. I'll talk forever.
Well, that's if you want to talk about voluntarily based movies that are just done strictly on either shoestring budget or no budget, that's already happening on YouTube. There are actually huge swaths of Fallout fans. Fallout the video game, in case no one knows or anything. There are actually lots of fans of the video game called Fallout New Vegas, and there are actually quite a few fandom movies surrounding the NCR and the NCR Rangers and all those other kinds of things. So there's already tons of movies like that, whether they're just half an hour or something short along those lines. There's plenty of those on there. And, a lot of the people doing this stuff, they're just cosplayers who enjoy making costumes, and they enjoy the lore, they enjoy the series, they enjoy the video games or movies or television shows, whatever it might be. And so they do this free of charge, and they do this strictly out of passion. and that's what's going to drive these people primarily is the fashion, or sorry, the passion, and not the actual monetary gain that they could possibly make. And so these things are already happening, and they're getting tens of thousands of views every month, just because people just like to. They also enjoy the series, and so there's a huge market for it. There really is.
Oh, and I agree. I've seen some of those fan ones. I forget what the one where the guy is from a vault where everybody's supposed to be fat, but he was the thinnest fat guy. That series was off the I loved him. I cannot remember what it was called, but I'll tell you this. That was freaking hysterical. Everything they did was amazing. And the finale, when they got to the end, that was the proper amount of like he's leveled up a bit, but he's still a goofball.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot
But
of those fan-made series are so freaking amazing. They're so amazing.
I think in the long run you are correct, Matt. But I don't know if YouTube is going to be the place for that anymore. Like they could be, but they need to do an about face right now. They need to see where the future is because their eyes are locked in the past, and as long as they're locked in the past, that's where they're going to be. They're toast. They're not going anywhere. They are going to be has-beens, and it's going to take years. This is going to be years, so they could turn this around. But I'm not seeing it. Like every time anybody points out to them, you're doing something that's costing you money, they go, well, if you don't like it, don't watch. Well, it's like that. Who's that person who was doing Marvel Comics? If you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. That's not how
Yeah.
you make money.
Yeah.
That's not how you make money.
Well,
And you need to make money.
it's
Or
kind
nobody. Or
it's kind of pointing out the truth, though. I mean, really, after learning some of these Hollywood actors' real politics and how they feel about stuff, I find myself not wanting to go to the movies at all. If I watch something, it's from Hulu or Netflix. You know what I mean? And I'm already paying a flat fee for that.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's because you've totally lost that disconnect that you once achieved through watching their movies, right? There's none of that cognitive dissonance, right? Every time you see insert actor here, like Angelina Jolie or something, you're constantly reminded in the back of your mind, she doesn't like Republicans or whatever it is, and so it totally just ruins the experience. There's no cognitive dissonance at that point,
on a
which it
personal note,
entirely
oh, sorry.
contradicts entertainment. Oh no, sorry, go on.
On a personal note, since you brought it up, I have two tickets that I got a while ago that I was going to use to go watch the new, what is it, Blade Runner. Everybody tells me it's a great movie. You should go see it. And you want to know something? I just can't. I'm actually thinking of burning those tickets, even though the money's still spent. Just because I am so disgusted with Hollywood at this point that even though I really, really, really want to watch that movie, and everybody has told me how awesome it is, and that they don't quite answer the question that should never be answered. And I'm like, okay, as long as they don't answer the question that should never be answered, I'll go see it.
Yeah.
And then the whole Harvey Weinstein came out, and I'm like, but I got the tickets. But I'm thinking of actually videotaping, burning them, and putting it on my channel at this point. I haven't quite brought myself to it. I haven't made up my answer because I still kind of want to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm going to at this point.
I wish we adopted the kind of Roman policy towards actors and actresses. Back in the good old times of Rome, they completely disregarded actors and actresses, and their political opinions were not exactly taken with hefty weight. I kind of want to just go back to that standard so badly.
Well, I mean, I could see that because, I mean, when you're an actor, by definition, you're a trained liar. So why
Yeah.
should you believe anything a trained liar is telling you? Like, by definition, we should not trust any actors ever. But then again, I'm kind of an actor, so that would apply to me too. So
Well, I
well,
want to.
yeah, go ahead.
I can just jump in that I think there's always been a lot of political actors, but obviously, I mean, there's John Wilkes Booth if you want to go back that far in America. But if you really think about it, I think that they really started to get involved in politics especially during the Bush administration, with Martin Sheen making a personal infomercial where he said that, oh, we can't invade Iraq, but sanctions work. Which, you know, I can't say that the Iraq War was the best decision, but why would you put a guy who was playing the president on TV, but in his personal life, not exactly Mr. Success, given his son, you know, obviously everybody knows the Charlie Sheen story now, and then you know, George Clooney had this legendary speech. I don't remember if it was during the Oscars in 2006 or 2007, that it was known as the smug speech, about how he goes around
Yes.
the world, and they just destroyed him on South Park, and ever since they can't take a hint that you know, you go to these conferences and you appear in front of the press with that microphone in front of your face. That doesn't mean that people should necessarily take your views with some expertise. And this year he's been proven to be kind of a fraud, because he had that mansion in Italy and he abandoned it because it was suddenly flooded with refugees in the surrounding areas. This is one of the biggest refugee advocates, and he leaves the mansion, moves his family back to the United States for security reasons. So
I remember that. That was hysterical.
yeah, but they still won't shut up, and it's amazing. I think, you know, I don't think that you can tell actors don't talk about your opinions. The same the way even with sports, I think athletes should be able to talk about their opinions, but they can't make it overshadow what they're really known for, because otherwise they become you know, basically little chess pieces for politicians. That's exactly what happened with I don't know which one of you guys brought up Weinstein and all of those um, you know, those starlets that who was it, Winona Judd or Ashley Judd, who was at the Pussy rally or whatever. And meanwhile, she knew that Harvey Weinstein was doing all these things. She's protesting Donald Trump, who's probably a stranger to her.
Oh yeah, the hypocrisy of that whole. You are protesting Donald Trump for. Here's the difference between Donald Trump and Weinstein. Donald Trump wants to have sex. Okay, that was what it was about. They let you have sex with him. He was willing to have sex with women who wanted to have sex with him. I can't fault the guy for that. Harvey Weinstein does not want to have sex with women who want to have sex with him. He wants to have sex with women who don't. He wants the power. Okay.
Yeah.
For him, it was all about a power transaction. Donald Trump, it was all about getting laid. You might not like him for wanting to get laid, but he didn't force anybody to do it. They wanted him. Weinstein, nobody wanted him. He looked like freaking Jabba the Hutt. I mean, seriously. You know,
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
swallow your vomit kind of sex.
Well, did you guys by chance hear any of the accounts? Apparently, he would literally chase women. There's two accounts specifically of one account he tried to chase this woman and try and keep her in his hotel room while he was naked. And he was literally standing in front of the door to like trying to keep her inside the hotel room. She's like, "No, let me out, let me out." And he did that to another girl. He like she walked in the room unsuspectingly, and apparently he was just, you know, lying on the bed in his robe, expecting some sexual favors.
Well, I mean, that's the difference. For him, it had nothing to do with the sex. The sex was secondary to him. It was about the power and control of being in this situation. And I've talked about this elsewhere, and it's something I bring up. Testosterone, unfortunately, has a side effect. It makes you extremely susceptible to dopamine addiction. What is dopamine addiction? Well, if you take a big risk and you succeed, you get a dose of dopamine. It's why there's gambling addicts. It's why there's people addicted to power. What bigger risk taking and success can you have than power? The problem is, like all addicts, there's that one there's that one moment. All addicts have that one moment where they say, that's where I got addicted. And that happened to me. That happened to me about 2-3 years into my career as a bill collector. I had that moment of ultimate power, ultimate destroyed somebody's life. I was high for days afterwards. It was the greatest feeling ever. Yes, I know I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
But I spent the next 8 years afterwards chasing that high. I was worse to other people afterwards. I did horrific things, but I never had that same high. I was destroying people's lives as a bill collector, not to get high, but just not to feel low, just to break even, just to feel anything anymore. I was a monster for about 10 years there. And
Yeah.
I know the effects of being addicted to power and dopamine.
As somebody who has a really low credit score, can I say fuck you?
And if you have problems with your credit score, you contact me after the stream and I will help you out, because there isn't a single bill collector in the world that you cannot destroy if you don't know the Fair Debt Collection Act. We have no power whatsoever over anybody. It's all a sham. It's smoke and mirrors. You do not have to fear a single bill collector. Give me, in fact, I should do a stream. I should do a video about it sometime, telling people how to weasel out. But if you need help, you contact me afterwards and I'll tell you how to get rid of all these assholes.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something. I think you mentioned it before that, Bob, about the Weinstein Donald Trump difference, and I did make a blog post on it. I think I streamed a bit on it earlier this week, where I addressed, first of all, there's a difference with both Weinstein and Clinton and versus Donald Trump and Herman Cain, two Republican politicians that have been accused of sexual harassment, which is that in the case of Clinton, you actually had him and his wife hiring private detectives to harass these women. You had, in Weinstein's case, all of these payoffs. There's just records of payoffs and even contracts where women were, I believe they had to commit to allowing him to do certain things. And this is really a cultural thing that's been enabled by a tolerant media, a media that, they'll, if you look at, and I'm writing the second part today, but if you look at some of the response, for example, from the New York Times, I wrote response mainly because of Michelle Goldberg's response in the New York Times. This is a woman who started, she was saying that the Republicans have no right to have any outrage over the Weinstein scandal. Well, she's someone who, first of all, she's pretending that it's only Republicans that are outraged over it. It's not. I mean, I don't consider myself affiliated with any political party. I think it's ridiculous that they try to say, oh, the Democrats don't have anything to do with it. Well, this Michelle Goldberg, by the way, is somebody who was publishing articles back in 2013, and I cite them in the blog post if you don't want to go ahead and look. But she actually was publicizing accounts by rape hoaxers. There's Elena Dunham, who was a huge part of the Democratic campaign. I don't know if she has any connection to the Weinstein company, but this is a woman who they've.
Well, she's not good looking enough.
well, yeah, but she's a rape hoaxer. According to several investigations, there's no way to substantiate anything she said. She simply put in an account in there. She was the Me Too before there was a me. One of these people that they need these rape stories in order to attract sympathy and kind of this glowing, I don't know what you would call it, like a glowing surrounding halo of people that will just say, oh yeah, poor you got sexually assaulted. Well, apparently none of it has been substantiated. That's really the type of person that has been protecting Harvey Weinstein. There are people who they'd rather talk about crimes that can't even be substantiated than talk about things that they know about.
Yeah. Well, this all just goes back to political affiliations, really. Weinstein would vote Democrats, so I mean that's he can do pretty much whatever he wants as long as he votes Democrat. It just all goes back to political affiliations, and I'm sure the Republicans have the same thing to an extent.
Yeah, I think the Republican Party, there's many things that I think that they do an awful job of. For example, they bring in too many people that are kind of religious. I don't. I mean, they're kind of religious
zealots.
Yeah, I mean, they're people who care about things that I don't care about at all, and they put it on a shield and run forward, and expect everybody to run after them, and then one of them gets caught, in a massage parlor or something, and their whole case falls apart. But I think
Well, the
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but the Republicans, I don't think they've been real Republicans for a while. Like they've gotten comfortable with their position of being the opposition party. They're rhinos. I mean, Republicans in name only. They've been rhinos for a while. And I'm going to say this about Donald Trump. I don't think he's a Republican either. He's a business Democrat. He saw the ailing Republican brand and performed what any businessman does, a hostile takeover. And that's why the Democrats hate him and the Republicans, because the Republicans are like, they're the rhinos. There are the entrenched management that Donald Trump's trying to fire after his hostile takeover of the Republican Party. The Republican Party for the past 10 years has been like the Democrats, but just, a different coat of varnish, really.
Yeah.
Well, Bold, first off, you jumped in late, so you want to throw out your channel, go ahead and do that. Second, how would you align yourself politically? Bland. Couldn't spit that out, sorry. Are you more of a libertarian, or are you a Republican or a conservative?
I'd say I'm closer. I'm closer to the libertarian side. Although, if you guys have been following the goings on in the Libertarian Party, I don't know what the hell they believe in, because they've become kind of they're trying to cater to disaffected Democrats a lot, and it's very disappointing to me that even in the alternative parties, we don't really see people that have the ability to say, yeah, I think that freedom of speech is an absolute, unless we can really determine a case where literally freedom of speech is threatening somebody. I mean, there's very few cases so far as I know, but the people that I know in that party aren't really standing up for it as much as I would think. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I would like to point out, in my opinion, because I am a member of the LP, I believe they need to get rid of Nick Sarwick as the chairman. I don't want him as our chairman anymore, and I stopped donating money.
Yeah, I heard about that, and if you could kind of expand on that, because I've heard that he's really trying to throw people out of the LP that he thinks are kind of intolerant or whatever.
Yeah, Tom Woods. Do you know who Tom Woods is?
Absolutely, I love his podcast.
Yeah, he threw him under the bus, called him a racist or a racist apologist. One of the LP people that are a gateway for the alt-right to come in to our party. Like, really, man? Really? Because what? Because he believes that the South had a right to secede? I believe that. So you don't want me in the party either. Like, and I don't want to get into the Civil War, and it wasn't all about slavery, but I don't want to get into that. That's not the topic. But that's what he's doing to certain members of the party. He's just calling them almost alt-right. He's throwing them in with freaking Richard Spencer, which I fucking hate that douchebag. But I still believe he has the right to talk. Let him talk. Matter of fact, open invitation. Come on to RedEye, Richard Spencer, and let me hear your side of the argument.
Yeah, that's sort of the.
Oh, I agree. I would love to have him on. I would love to have him on too. I mean,
yeah,
for no other reason than just to hear him talk.
He does have a good speaking voice.
Yeah, and Bold, go ahead. Sorry, we keep cutting you off. The red eye is kind of all over the place, man.
Oh, yeah. I thought maybe I have a problem with my computer. Sometimes I lose connection. Yeah, I think like the whole issue with the LP is that, in particular, a party that talks about libertarianism, they have to really champion free speech much more than the other parties, in my opinion, in order to live up to what they're talking about. Because the Republican Party, I don't really know what they're about anymore either, and neither do. But it stands to reason that two parties that are in power should probably have lost a lot of their ideals over the years, because they're used to being close to the trough. But people that are out, the libertarians, I don't see why they have an obligation to buy into this SJW crap, or to Yeah, and as far as Richard Spencer, I mean, I've talked to white nationalists on my broadcast. I've talked to black nationalists. I've talked to Venezuelans. I've talked to people from Spain. I talked to Catalonians, and does that make me any of those things? No. I mean, that's the difference between somebody who's open-minded and somebody who they're trying to appeal to somebody else, which is who I think the LP what I think the LP is doing right now. If you guys agree with me, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. And I don't know if 40 lost his connection or what. Usually, at least puts in the side chat that he's leaving, so he might do that. What do you think, Eldritch? And where do you stand? Like, I don't think I know what party you align with. So
I tend to deal with individual issues one at a time. See, in some ways, if you wanted to say, do I support Trump? Well, if you said overall, yeah, because he won the election. If you're telling me that I love everything he's doing, no. His latest thing where he's going to allow the CIA notes on the JFK assassination to be released. Oh, I love that. Great, wonderful. Complete transparency. Awesome. I don't know why it didn't happen sooner. There's other things I got a problem with, and let's not get into that. Politics-wise, I'm getting to the point where less government's better. I mean, I don't think that we should go complete anarchy now, but if we had a 50-year plan for eliminating everything involving government, I'd be like, okay, let's give it a try and see at what point it falls apart. Because, God, it's just everything that I look at when I look more and more into government interference, I just keep going, if you look back far enough, if government hadn't interfered in the first place, they wouldn't have to be interfering now. That seems to be the recurring theme. If government hadn't screwed up originally, they wouldn't have to be fixing up what they fucked up.
yeah, and to move on to another topic. So Trump does plan on releasing the JFK files. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's long overdue, but as many people have said since I've heard about it, it's possible that those notes probably don't reveal much. But I think what Donald Trump is trying to do is to show that he's not being kind of one of these guys that is a tool of the branches of government, especially the intelligence community, like the NSA, CIA, etc. He's trying to show, look, I don't have any commitment to these people because I know that they've been doing the dirty all these years to us, and kind of betraying their own mission. So I think it's more of a nice gesture than really a great discovery. But I mean, who knows what those things say? So we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, I have to agree. I don't think anything's going to come of this. But it's a nice gesture. At this point, it's probably been so heavily edited and redacted and changed that we're never going to know the truth. But the fact that the fact that they were covering up whatever redacted, modified truth they had for this long, why? Like, you've had decades to change your story, but at least his heart's in the right place, as far as I think.
Well, I mean, there's got to be something in there. They held on to them, and when they were first released, they were heavily redacted. And now they're going to be released in full in their entirety. So there's got to be something in there that they were holding back. It was classified, man. I mean,
you want the rumor? We're going to find out that George Bush is going to have been there at the day of his assassination and that he was trained by the CIA as an agent.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not making this up. That's the rumor.
Yeah, I've heard a rumor or something like that, or that's linked to an oil company that Bush was associated with. That there were people that
that we already know about. That's actually proven. The Zapata thing, where all the resources came for the invasion of the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, that's all been linked to the Bush family. I mean, that's already proven. This is whether or not George Bush is the guy who shot JFK, which of course he's not, but Wouldn't it be interesting to find out if he was at least in the area?
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. I think there was mob connections, but I talked about that on Thorne's channel the other day. So we don't need to get too much into that. That's just a story I saw. And then Catalonia, since you brought that up earlier, Bull. Yeah, they're saying that Spain's reaction to this is ridiculous and they're not going to stand for it. So it seems to be an escalation day by day, right?
Oh, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen the news for the past few days, but apparently, there's like I spoke to these people, and I have 2-hour-long interviews for those of you that want to check them out. With one of them was with a professor from the University of Barcelona, Dr. Enric Lark, and the other one was with a person from two people from the Catalunya C campaign, the people who wanted to leave Spain. And the first one was before the referendum, and the second one was a few days after. And their attitude towards the EU had changed probably from one end of the spectrum to the other, because they realized that despite the fact that they're all progressives, Catalonia is one of the more progressive regions of Europe, and especially of Spain, which is, and the rest of the country, a little more conservative Catholic. And they started to realize that there's nobody at the higher level. Doesn't matter whether it's Europe, doesn't matter whether it's Spain, doesn't matter whether it's the UN, that will stick their neck out in order to stand up for the democratic rights of people that have voted in a fully democratic referendum. And by the way, I mean, I don't see why they should have been surprised. I mean, look what's been happening in Kurdistan in the midst of the war against ISIS. The Iranians and the Turks turned around and they said, hey, let's fuck the Kurds because they're trying to get out of Iraq. And that's the way it works in a lot of the places in the world right now, where there's people that want to get their independence after generations or even centuries of being under the thumb of another country.
So I take it you're pro-secession.
I don't know if I'm pro-secession, but we're talking about in terms of Spain, and I don't know about the other example I brought up. Kurdistan, I think they have grounds for leaving the countries that they're part of, but the real problem here is that if you compare Catalonia to Scotland, what happened there? The British government said, look, okay, let's have a referendum whether you want to secede and become a free country, and we'll run our campaign for you to stay, and you run a campaign for you to leave, and I guess we'll recognize the consequences after they happen and negotiate a separation or not if you guys lose. And it worked, and in 2015 Scotland voted against seceding. And in Spain, the government has basically said, well, you don't even have a constitutional right to secede. So, we're just going to ignore everything that you do. And once you do it, we're going to declare it illegal and come in and beat people. Well, Europe, which is supposedly, once they've committed to upholding democracies, they should have a problem with that, but they don't. They consider an internal problem of Spain, and it undermines the credibility of Spain as or of the European Union as a representative of democracies in the West. You can't have people being dragged out of polling stations by their hair and then go and criticize, and they criticize countries all around the world. Sometimes they're right for being, draconian in their treatment. I think they criticize China once in a while. It doesn't matter that it's really an empty gesture. They criticize Israel all the time. I know that because I served over there in the Israeli army, and I think that I can understand if they want to criticize other countries, but once they allow the same type of stuff to happen within their own countries, and they've been trying to do that in some of their other territories as well, and they're trying to consolidate the EU into a more invasive state. I think that they've jumped the shark, and this is only one case. And for me, the secession question is only a secondary issue, because obviously, like I said, whether Catalonia secedes or not, that's really not something that I think I have to have an opinion on.
Well, I mean, you don't necessarily have to. I do, and I am pro secession, and I can't. What I don't like is when people say, "Yeah, it's good for these guys to leave," but when it comes to someone in your own country or whatnot, Britain leaving the EU, that's not good for some people. They pick and choose which secession is good and which is not, and you can't really do it. You can't have it both ways like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am for.
I see what you
Go
mean,
ahead.
and what I meant by that was that okay, so well, let's talk about secession. I'm not saying that I would that secession from Spain is something that is good or bad, but the process is what's important here. And when you have a process where the government and the seceding party have an amicable discussion, as in the case of Scotland, I think it's still better than what happened in Spain, where it was just completely that the Spanish government was basically pretending that there wasn't a problem for years, and then when this vote came up, they decided it was a massive threat on their own integrity. Well, they've allowed the problem to fester. They've been very high-handed towards not just the Catalonians but towards the Basques, and they're resistant towards giving them any legitimacy as a cause. So, I think Scotland, for example, sure, they had a right to secede, I think too, but the government over there in London, instead of sending in scores of riot police to beat people and tear down polling centers, they engaged in a campaign, and they gave them a forum to discuss their differences. I think that's the difference where I think Britain did a lot better.
Yes, but remember, we don't have a history of fascism. Spain does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what part of the UK are you from, if I can ask?
I'm originally from Lancashire, but I've lived all over the country, so
Yeah, I think
on the continent.
I just have to say, I don't know what side you fell up on the referendum, but I was following it for years. I think Nigel Farage, whether
Brexit,
you don't,
100%.
Are you pro Brexit, or are you
totally Brexit? Absolutely, I've been pro Brexit since the common market turned into the European, the EEC. You could see the project expanding.
Yeah, so I think you'd agree with me if they would have at least responded to Mr. Farage's his issues with the EU back maybe 15 years ago. Before that,
yeah,
that maybe they wouldn't be in this situation, but they've just gone full speed ahead on everything. They tramp on.
Zorro, don't forget that before the referendum, Cameron didn't want to really give us a referendum. He went there to try to negotiate something to try and avoid the referendum, and Europe told him to go and fuck himself, basically. They wouldn't do any appeasement whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think
they had ample chance to avoid it.
So do you think, I mean, I think you're still technically a citizen of the EU. Do you think that they'd ever be able to become a representative democracy again, or are they kind of, screwed? They've already committed so much to this idea of a united Europe. I heard that this new European army is starting to become a real thing. Do you think it's? I predicted last year that Italy would be the next country to secede. I mean, what's your take on it? Because you're a little closer, obviously being part of it.
I'd have thought Austria would have done before, but I don't understand that Green Party thing that happened. But to be honest, I'd have thought Greece would have been out by now. Long overdue. Poor old Greece has got absolutely fucked in the arse.
Yeah, but Cabbage, why would Greece leave when they bailed them out? They needed the help, so now they need to stay.
Yes, but that's exactly why they need to leave, because they need to devalue. They need to reintroduce their own currency, devalue it, and then they can actually get on with their lives again.
Yeah, they'd be 100 times better off if they had control over their own currency.
Yeah, that's the reason that Greece needs to do it, and they've done it before. They did it back in the 1950s, so there is a precedent for it.
You mind if I move sideways slightly? What do you guys think about the Czech Republic election of that billionaire guy?
Don't know. I really haven't paid much attention to it, to be honest with you. I've been more focused on Hungary and Poland. You know,
He is like he is so anti-EU. It's not funny.
Cool.
He's
Good.
against quotas from the EU for immigrants. I think that he is like just one more nail in the coffin here for the EU.
Oh, the EU is in dire straits. There's no doubt about that.
Can I ask Cabbage Patch? Is it Cabbage Patch Bastard or
Bastard?
Bastard. Awesome. we should like connect sometime because I wanted to pick your brains about this. I wanted to ask these people that I hear about from Farage, the Ramoners. Are they actually like a majority in the UK, or are they kind of just these whiny people that get a lot of attention?
No, the big problem we have is that they are the majority in the cabinet, in the government. That's where the problem lies. No, I mean, obviously they're not a majority in the country. Otherwise, we wouldn't have.
Yeah, you wouldn't have voted for Brexit. But,
yeah, no, I mean, Theresa May was a Remainer. I mean, if you look at most of the cabinet, like 80%, 90% of the cabinet is all Remainers, and they're doing everything they can to scupper it. It's hideous.
Yeah, I look at EU. I look at UK media every once in a while, and it's except for maybe, is it the Telegraph or the Express, who are, I think that they're a little too, they're kind of on the right, so I don't know how much to trust them as well. But I see like
the Daily Mail is on the right.
I see the Independent.
Can we burn the BBC? Can we just burn the whole place to the ground? Did you see that video with that black dreadlocked woman going, "Oh, white people are racist"? Oh, I'm like, ah!
Unbelievable. Isn't that well, it's not even a white, it wasn't a black female, it was a black trans.
Yep.
I missed that.
It's a lost cause.
I didn't need to know that. Yeah. Thank you for even destroying more of my faith.
Yeah, it just gets weirder, you see. You think it's got weird, and then it gets weirder.
But seriously, I think I did a upload video in March about there was a campaign in the UK, and it had like actual traction to remove alcohol labels that said pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol because it was misogynistic. And that's the type of stuff that I see in the Independent and the Guardian all the time.
Yeah.
What?
Guardian, totally.
Yeah, these people.
The Guardian is radical left.
But listen, those are the people those are the EU supporters. Those are, and they all, I mean, not only are they anti-freedom, they're anti, health in some sense. And I said, in my analysis, I said, I'm by training, I have engineering degrees. I wouldn't tell people advice on medicine like this woman who was promoting it, she's a professor of health sociology at the University of Kent, I think. And I'm like, this is.
What the fuck does that mean? I mean, what is that title even?
I'll have to send it to you. I'll send you either the article or my video. And you, I mean, I don't know if do you have your own video channel? You should probably do one because you probably have a little more traction in the UK. Because it really disturbed me that this got into I don't know what mainstream is anymore, but it was a major newspaper in the UK. They were talking about removing alcohol labels for pregnant women.
No, I have heard of that, but I thought it was just one of these wild, bullshit sort of, fill up some space kind of things. I'm not sure just how actually significant it is. I don't think anyone's followed up on it. Just one of those sort of space fillers in the newspaper. It's probably in the Metro. That's where most shit turns up.
You gave me a stroke. That was so stupid. Half my face isn't working now thanks to you. Warning labels that this can harm your. I can't even wrap my head around how dumb that is.
Yeah, well, logic isn't exactly one of the social justice warrior intersectionalists. It's not in their quiver.
No, and neither is a nice debate. They won't even talk to us. Like, I've never even spoken to Steve Shives, and I was blocked because he uses auto blocker. So, like,
Unblocked.
I mean, seriously, they won't even discuss anything. and then they just call us freaking right-wing neo-Nazis. I'm not a fucking
Yeah,
Nazi.
and you look at like Steve Shives in his videos, and then you got Sargon, right? Sargon still leaves all the comments open. Steve Shives won't even leave comments open. All of these people with these ridiculous views know that if they leave comments open on YouTube, that they're just going to get berated because of how fucking retarded they are.
And they're passing up all that good material. People are giving you free material, and you're throwing it away. That makes no sense.
Yeah, Bob, that was which one of you guys brought up the whole issue of Netflix and entertainment and movies? It's the same idea that when Amy Schumer's stupid comedy special got downvoted like last year, what did Netflix
that was
do?
Funny.
I mean, you get a movie that has horrible reviews or whatever, and people hate it. What's the proper response to make a better movie or to change the rating system? I mean, that's really the issue that
they've changed the rating system. I mean, the top 20 shows to watch. Orville's number 18. It's got a 92% approval, and it's number 18 on the list. That is one of the worst shows you could watch, with only, 20% approval by the critics, but 91, 92 of the fans. And it's insane that these paid critics believe their opinion matters anymore.
Yeah, I think the funniest case I saw, even if a show is good, they'll try to politicize it. And this is a show I don't watch. It's called The Handmaid's Tale. And when it came out, people were trying to say, "Oh, this is now the show. This is the show that is a metaphor for the Trump era, and this is a show about women being repressed in a hyper-Christian America." And I was like, if that's the way it is, then you wouldn't be able to actually write this stupid editorial that you just put up, claiming that it's a metaphor for Donald Trump's America. It's these people are living in some sort of this LSD trip or something.
You want to know what's really sad?
But they talk about the fact that they're not represented, and yet all they ever do is jump up and down without anyone, preventing them. I mean, of all the people who can jump up and down and make total dicks of themselves, it's the fucking social justice and intersectionals, right? Anybody else with an actual, with a placid thought in their head, a reasonably balanced argument or something, then you get deplatformed.
You want to know what the sad part is of The Handmaid's Tale?
Look how many of these intersexuals have been deplatformed, the SJWs. How many have actually been deplatformed by their former allies? They're tearing themselves apart. Good. I'm fucking glad.
Before we get upon that, Eldritch, you go, and then...
Okay, just real quick here. The original book of The Handmaid's Tale was actually calling out Islam. Just pointing it out. It originally was anti-Islam.
Right.
Yeah, I heard it was kind of a metaphor of Iran, but like as if Iran was in America. Like the same. Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I want to point out also, if you look at the shows that are doing good, a lot of the people writing them are left wing. Like even George R. R. Martin, who wrote A Song of Ice and Fire, which is Game of Thrones, it claims to be a feminist. But you can't really tell that from his writing.
He's a rapist.
Because he's fat and he's got a beard and he just wants to get laid.
If you're male and a feminist, you're either a pedophile or a rapist. It's one or the other at this point.
Yeah, that's true. They do seem to be coming out of the woodwork, don't they?
No, his ex-wife was a feminist, and I think his current wife is as well. So he just falls in line with his wife. But that's
but he's right. But he's right, because a lot of these people are being exposed for being, rapists and pedophiles. I mean, that seems
who's the
to
guy
be
who made
the
Buffy the
standard.
Vampire Slayer? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, his wife dumped him, and he finally confessed that he was a freaking serial molester. I mean, it was awful. Like the guy, who it is? I forget what his name is. Joss Whedon. Yeah, apparently he's a total slut. He's like psychotic into sex.
But look at the YouTube community. Look how many people have been found to have been, turned into, stalkers or, rapists or whatever. I mean, there's so many of them.
Or sleeping with 2 women at once and killing one.
Yeah, exactly. Murder.
I listen to V's channel, and he brings them up all the. You guys know who V is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He works with Sargon, a fantastic channel. But they find people like that all the time, and I think you know I don't care if people have left wing views because you know I can separate the artist from the art as long as the art's a quality product. But when you have shows that are obviously pandering to a certain community, when what they did to Sports Center, and I don't know if you guys like sports, but what they've done to all these
Yeah,
forms of entertainment,
ESPN.
yeah, comedy and everything, and I hear about this going on all around the world, and that's why you have people that are developing not just alternatives like what we're talking about on YouTube and all that, but alternatives in the sports world. For example, there's a guy named Clay Travis who's trying to he's trying to produce his own content, who's an ex ESPN guy. And it's just going to become like there's going to be two parallel medias, one that's for people that agree with one political ideology and one that's the other. And that didn't used to be that way. Everybody used to I mean, do you think
Echo
that
chambers.
yeah, do you think
I
that,
don't entirely agree with that. I think there's going to be one media that's just for one ideology, and then one media for those people who can consume whatever comes their way. I know people think that it's going to break up into two camps, but I'm not seeing that because the people
No,
I know
I think it'll go
tolerate
into
liberal and
three.
conservatives, but liberals only.
No, I think it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think he's right, but I think it'll go into three. You know, like you're correct too, that there'll be the two extremes, and then there will be the people in the middle who just say, you know, leave me the fuck out of all of your, you know, your either your virtue signaling or your, you know, whatever propaganda it is from whichever side.
Well, somebody said something about sports. I want to take this moment to say, go Dodgers. We're going to win the World Series.
Oh, you and your bloody spam, you chaps in tight fucking trousers.
They don't wear tights. That's football. You're damn.
Well, they wear tight trousers.
British.
You. Yeah. You know, something wrong with that.
I'm sorry. At this point, I'm no sports ever again for a long time for me. I'm just so disgusted. I can't stand it. I'm done. And I've found so much more free time since I've given it up. You know,
the thing is, but it's not just the sports, is it? It's everything. This sort of ideological horseshit, and it's clearly. I mean, it isn't about sport, and it's not about whatever it is that it's applied to. You know, whether it's comedy or whatever. This is just an ideological onslaught that's been unleashed.
Well, you know what comedy I watch, really? Old shit, like George Carlin and freaking old Chris Rock.
George Carlin was very left-wing.
He was hilarious. And what he's talking about with, like, freedom of...
Exactly, but he was the last of the left-wing comedians who were funny.
I think he was like a libertarian. I consider him a libertarian.
No, he wasn't. He was very left-wing.
I think when we talk about the left today, you know, it's really back in the 90s, for example, and I was only like in my teens, I probably would have been a left-winger because back then, you know, there was Pearl Jam, there was grunge music, there was Korn, there was rap music.
Holy shit.
What do we even have today that's good? And I'm just talking about music, but today they've won on every front in terms of the education system, in terms of the media. So everything they have is stale garbage. And now they have to bring in their authoritarian critics to weed out people that don't agree with them. So the left has changed a lot. I think you guys are right. Whoever said that George Carlin was left wing, yeah, but the left wing back then wasn't the you know, an exposed authoritarian group like it is today. These people.
We have ultra left now. I mean, these people, and the thing is that the center is, you know, I mean, the center is obviously still the center, but the majority of, you know, or the power structure has moved massively left. So anything which looks remotely reasonable is classified as right wing now.
You know, I remember watching this article about Britpop, which is you know, this movie, sorry, this documentary that concerned Blur and Oasis, and Oasis is one of the bands.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me if I'm an asshole, but I loved Oasis.
No, it was the battle of the bands. Yeah,
right.
They hated. Well, they didn't hate each other, but it was created to make it look like they did.
Well, what they really have in common? I think they were both supporters of Tony Blair and the Labor Party, and that was back then. So to say that the the entertainment industry has moved left, it's been left for a long time. But what type of left is it when you have people supporting this idiot like Jeremy Corbyn or over here you have people supporting Hillary Clinton almost reflexively. Here in Ohio, we won a championship this year, in basketball, or last year, I mean, and the star player, LeBron James, supported Hillary Clinton, went and shilled for her, wrote an article for the newspaper for her, and she still lost. These people should take a hint, and she lost by like 8 points in Ohio. I don't know what else that can they just not listen to people and say, maybe our politics, we can believe in it, but other people can believe otherwise.
Well,
No, because you can't do that if you're an authoritarian, right? If you're an authoritarian, you can't accept that other people don't think the way you do. You have to force them into thinking the way you do, whether it's through propaganda, force feeding people, these diatribes. That's how they operate. That's their modus operandi.
yeah, but my feeling is that the dichotomy between two parties is shifting. The Libertarian Party might suck right now, but it has a few years nationally to gain credibility, and on the local level, it's never been doing better. So, there is a third option that will materialize. Hopefully, they got what 2% of the vote this time around. That's
I don't
quite
think
a bit.
America's designed for a three-party system. It took us forever to get one. I mean, well, we had one going back to the days of the Whigs. We had the Liberal Party, Social Democratic Party, the Liberal Democrats and the Social Democrats, which merged into one. And then, but they're fucking useless. They were like, they're spare change.
Well, I think what needs to happen is a debate needs to be figured out that's not ran by the Republicans or the Democrats. A third party needs to come in and say, okay, we're going to go with the top 4 national parties in America, and we're going to put them all on the stage, and that's how we're going to do it for the debates.
It'd be much better if the party members or the people actually just told the fucking party what they expected of it, instead of the people just accepting whatever the party does, and saying, well, I'm just Republican, so I've got to put up with whatever shit that they put forward.
Can I make an
I mean, surely sure, sorry.
Well, as regards to American politics, I've been seeing something forming. I just want to throw it out there so you guys can think about this. The Democrats are doubling down on all their insanity, but I'm telling you right now, the numbers are horrible. They are going to lose big in the midterm elections. 2018 is going to be horrible for them, and they are lying to their people and telling them it's going to be great. Okay, sure. So that's going to be a big problem. But the Republican Party, you can see it right now. Donald Trump really wants to clean house. He is going after the primaries to get rid of specific Republicans he does not want. Yeah, and so you're going to see an upset in the Republicans too. Well, if there was going to be a fracturing, it's going to be in the next 2 to 4 years.
Oh yeah, I mean, people forget Donald Trump is not the Republican president. I mean, he's fighting a rearguard action the whole way. The Republican Party didn't want him. They did everything in their power to try and get rid of him during the election.
Well,
so the idea that he represents the Republican Party is...
Well, here's my theory. One of two things are going to happen. Either the liberty-minded Republicans like Justin Amash, Rand Paul, these type of people are going to take over the Republican Party, or the Libertarian Party has to get its act together. Because even Austin Peterson, who I wanted to run for president instead of Gary Johnson for the LP, he switched over. He's running for Senate in Missouri, which if you live in Missouri, you should vote for him. That's my personal endorsement. Not that it matters, but I'm putting it out there. He already switched over to Republican from the LP. So the good libertarians are going to jump ship unless the LP gets its fucking act together. And they need to fire Nick Sarwick. He needs to be out of there.
I think you guys are all bringing up like some great insights, because a lot of people start. I mean, there was an effort last year to get the Republican Party to dump Donald Trump several times. First was during the convention, and even before that. And I just like to remind you guys, if that had happened and we would have had hypothetically a Republican elected instead of Hillary Clinton, do you know what that would look like? It would look like the guy that Cabbage Patch Bastard has in power over there, Theresa May. Theresa May
Yeah.
is
Fucking
it's
turncoat.
yeah, she's a nominal conservative. What's conservative about her policies? You can't.
Nothing.
Tommy Robinson still gets harassed just for talking about stuff. Just for talking. I mean, forget about whether you agree with him, but just for talking about stuff. That's not conservatism as
Oh no, no,
right.
jokes.
Yeah.
Just for jokes. You know, you got people being arrested for jokes, for posting tweets here now.
Oh yeah, that's
over
horrible.
20 people, 20, 30 people have been arrested over
Good
here.
fella.
Now,
Good fella.
Tweets or jokes.
With the 6.
Yeah, good fella. Obviously Count Dankula as well, but there's been like 30 of them. 30 arrests that have been done in this country because of tweeting. And yet they can't keep track of fucking terrorists.
Cabbage, have you organized that Nazi rally for Dankula yet?
No. I think
I'm telling you, the million Nazi pug rally. It will be amazing.
It would be so cool.
You know, there are cats out there that are born with little black mustaches that make them look like Hitler. There's a whole, there are thousands of pictures. We should have like the million Nazi cat march.
Well, you know, this is the stupid thing about it, right? He said himself that when he walks down the street now, and this is one of the reasons that he had problems with working. He couldn't keep his job because he was a bouncer, you know, and people were laughing because they recognized him and stuff, you know, and they were doing Zeke Heiling and stuff. He said you can't go down the car without somebody putting a Zeke Heil out of the window, right? So these people actually made, you know, the
is he actually a Nazi?
No, of course he's not. No. He only made it as a joke because he knew that it would piss his girlfriend off. That's all it was.
It's so ridiculous. And let me tell you, I'm Jewish. I've been, you know, I've raised in a family that we were affected by the Holocaust and everything. This whole Nazi shit that's been going on.
Hey,
not me, but you know,
you here. 1/3 of my family tree killed by the Nazis, 1/3 by the goddamn Russians. Okay. Mother was an actual bona fide refugee. So,
what's
the Jews are bitching about? We've had fucking Europeans pissing about with us for years. We had Napoleon, we had Hitler, we had the Kaiser, we had the Armada. Where's our fucking Holocaust reparations?
All I'm trying to say.
How about the Vikings coming in, raping and pillaging? I want some fucking reparations from.
All I'm trying to say is that
Viking reparations now.
Why is it in 2017? Why is it in 2017 we have to bring up stuff that happened? I mean, we're not going to relitigate the Civil War. We can't relitigate World War II. They want to do that. The left wants to do that. But then when we want to relitigate the Cold War, which is they support a side in the Cold War that they don't want to admit to it, they get kind of like you know, they're a shy turtle syndrome. You know, they don't care. Suddenly, when all they want to do is they want to pick and choose which historical injustices to relitigate. So then they call you Nazis. Doesn't matter who you are, and you know the things that you just said. Cabbage Patch Bastard. It's exactly the point. You know, you can't if you've had personal or family history where you've been wronged and you keep regurgitating it all the time, you're never going to move past it. It's going to dwarf everything else in your identity. And if the British did that for all of their past, they wouldn't get to talk about all of the remarkable advances like Isaac Newton's advances in their history. That's the sad part about being Jewish in politics here. A lot of them are obsessed with the Holocaust, like Bernie Sanders, who is he only brings up his religious identity, which is not a religious identity in the context of the Holocaust. And I have a huge problem with that.
And where's his fucking tattoo? He doesn't have one. Shut up.
The whole thing is we have a religion that's thousands of years old, and we focus on the worst 12 years of it, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like Norman. I like Norman Finkelstein. You know,
Well,
I mean, you know, the Holocaust industry. I think it's,
no, real quick.
I tell you what, that's a brave guy.
Cabbage, real quick, you guys can go right back to it. I want to give a shout out to Zero Cool. His daughter's graduating from the United States Air Force next week.
Oh, nice one.
Congratulations. I am
Congratulations.
sure you are proud as hell, dude. Congrats.
Yeah, Zero. Good to you, mate. Well, I mean, you know, pride, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah, well,
But no,
I mean,
that was a really interesting take. So go ahead and continue.
like the normal Finkelstein. I mean, I can't say I agree to the degree, to what he says to the degree that he does, but
Well, the Holocaust industry is pretty well documented, and he does go through in the details. If you haven't read it, I suggest you give it a look.
Well, all I'm saying is that there's other things to focus on besides that, and it's really
well, exactly. But that's what he's saying. But that's what Finkelstein's saying, is that this is a Holocaust industry, that people are making money out of it, which is why they keep perpetuating this constant, you know, victimhood status.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like I said, I can agree with some of the things he says, and you know, there's other. I know some of the other work he does that I don't agree with, but like the fact is that I'm not calling for.
Oh, you mean his work in Palestine? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly non-partisan.
But I've never called for him. I've never called for him to be censored, and there are people who do, which is also wrong.
Oh yeah. No, he got kicked off campus in Canada a couple of times.
Yeah, and it's like the point is that freedom of speech, like if I had to, if I was going to ban one person, it stands to reason somebody could ban me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to point out real quick. I saw a story on YouTube earlier this morning when I was waking up. I go through my subscription, you know. I'm sure you guys do too. And they were talking about how the Holocaust memorials in Germany aren't really there anymore. They're just like camping sites now with no marker of anything. So they're trying to erase that history, kind of. And then there's, you know, taking down the Confederate monuments. Yeah, I can understand not dwelling on history. I get that. But erasing it, that I have a problem with.
Well, that's what I mean. This is the ideological aspect of it, which really gets on my tits. You know, this is, I mean, it stems out of America. This is definitely not homegrown. It's not something British people would have come up with. I mean, you got, you know, these people in Britain who are basically acting like Black Lives Matter, like there's any relevance whatsoever to Black Lives Matter in the UK.
Well, that's homegrown.
Slavery, right? Well, yeah, but that's what no. It's been imported because it's come in through the American students that have come into the universities, because we have a lot of American students
that particular strain of SJW, that is American, but there are other strains of SJW that come from other locations. It's not coming out just out of America.
No, but that's what I mean. It's an ideological thing. But the actual the things that they're reading, the resource materials that they're referencing, the mass majority of that is coming out of American universities. That's where they're getting these doctrines from. They're not homegrown doctrines. They're coming out of places like Berkeley and, I mean, hell, I mean Yale. I mean, now Oxford and Cambridge are no better than Yale and, you know, and Berkeley.
You know, I'd like to say that this has been happening. In fact, believe it or not, you guys know who William F. Buckley is or was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, kind of bite his accent. God, I hate that English accent.
Well, what he did was he wrote. I think he wrote in the 50s. There was already evidence that far left ideologues had infiltrated American universities. So maybe we're just seeing like the fruits of 60 years in the making. 70 years.
It's been going well. It's been going on really since the 60s. Yeah, it's been going on really since the early 60s. That's without a doubt. That's where it came. That's where it stemmed out of.
Actually, if I can take 2 seconds, I'd like to adjust your question that you made quite a while ago. The main reason is feelings first, facts follow. This is unfortunately the truth of humanity. We are creatures of passion. We find logic to justify our passions, not the other way around. So when you're talking about the left saying, why do they keep bringing up the Holocaust? It's because there aren't anything to really complain about today. But if you bring up the Holocaust, you could say Holocaust or, you know, slavery. We need money.
Well,
That's
they're
what
leveraging historical events for an agenda that has nothing to do with it, and
Well, Zorro, stick
it's a
with us,
shame.
mate.
It's what's that?
Stick with us. Don't go fucking bailing.
I got to do a couple things. All right, I'll try to hang on, but look, there's an issue. You know, I do believe that there should be some education on, especially on the Civil War, which we don't learn enough about, but it shouldn't be geared towards indoctrinating people in either way. And as for the Holocaust, I've said to people I know that instead of, you know, just making it into this social angst event, we should use it in order to say, you know what, we in the West, we have a problem with genocide, and we think it's wrong, and we should object to it wherever it happens. It shouldn't just be based around one event. We should say, and you know, that would include, by the way, white genocides. So things that are happening in there's apparently something happening in South Africa right now that, you know, people just don't want to pay attention to.
Horrible. That's horrible. There's people I know down there who I give a ticket to bring them up here.
So why do we have to pick and choose all the time?
Yes, but you see, here's the ridiculous nature of all of this social justice horseshit, right? They're moaning about the fact that women, about a pay gap that doesn't exist, right? They're just completely failing to understand the difference between a pay and an earnings gap. Meanwhile, you still got women, you know, having female genital mutilation, you know, all of the atrocities that go on in these Middle Eastern countries. You know, they think they've got a big win when a woman gets to drive in Saudi Arabia if her husband, you know, or father deems it's appropriate. You know what I mean? They're not interested in actually in the issues themselves, because if they did, they know they'd have to go up against, you know, oh well, it's got to be, you know, it's Islam now. Bit of a sticky subject.
Yeah, they have this.
They don't have the strength of their. They don't have any integrity.
They have a problem where you guys are talking about emotion. They're so wrapped up in actual emotional issues. Like through this entire stream, have I agreed with everything you guys have said? I'd probably say there's 2 or 3 things I don't agree with, and then you could probably say the same thing about things I've said, but we haven't broken it off with them. When you say something, for example, that you know, there's only women like pumpkin spice, they would say, you are some sort of caveman. You're going to drag me into the cave. Don't talk about my pumpkin spice.
We should talk about the upside of the Holocaust.
Yeah, I guess it was like a banner year for railroad track construction or something.
Well, you know, well,
actually, if you want to be technical,
it reduced the heating costs.
Well, I mean, if you look back, they did IQ testing on Jews before the Holocaust and afterwards, and the average IQ of Jewish people went up dramatically because they probably killed a lot of the dumber ones, because the smart ones were the ones who got out of the country first.
Well, that's so fucked up. So.
That's pretty fucked up. But if you look at the actual stats, I think
logical argument.
You know, but that's like so racist, and probably got this channel demonetized just for saying it. So I apologize.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
It's a logical argument, though.
You know, I'm
Darwinism.
Like, no, I'm kidding. No, but I would like to hear the 3 things that stand out in your mind that you disagree with. And was it one of the things I said? Like the Confederate?
No, I think, you know, just Norman Finkelstein, I think I just disagree with him on a number of things. For example, but you know, those are things that I can live with. I don't have to throw a fit when somebody mentions somebody I don't agree with. And when I mentioned Buckley, you know, Cabbage Patch Bastard said that he doesn't like him for. Those are things that, you know, people have to realize that tolerance means that you can accept things that aren't to your liking happening or being mentioned or brought up. It's just, that's what tolerance means. That's not the way the left looks at it.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, Buckley fucking hated his, pseudo English accent with that, ridiculous drawl that he had, But anyway, he fell on his own sword when he went up against Christopher Hitchens. So, yeah, kind of committed suicide on that one. But I would still listen to what he had to say. And of course, you have to do that. And the Finkelstein thing, I mean, I agreed with you, in terms of his Palestinian stance, like the pro-Palestinian, it's, is that some kind of, internalized hatred or something for his Jewish heritage or something.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, he's a bit odd on that one. But I agree with him with a lot of the other stuff that he says on, but that's the whole point, right? There is nothing which is 100% accurate. I mean, we're always wading through chaos.
If I could say something, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know, how do you guys feel about Ayn Rand? Because she's really divisive. Oh man, I had a hard time talking tonight.
I couldn't stand reading her. That was the problem. I wanted to read her. I wanted to read the books, and
I like the Fountainhead. I like that.
It just doesn't flow for me. It's not. It is nothing. I can't speak about her ideas too much because I just can't tolerate her writing style. I mean,
but she did a lot of interviews. You should see some of her.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen in general. I understand. I mean, I understand her general positions, and I'm kind of neutral on the whole thing. I don't think, I mean.
Wait, but you don't think selfishness?
Yeah, one of the problems is that fucking Alan Greenspan had an affair with her, and he was overseeing the biggest collapse of the economy that ever happened.
Ew, there's a picture I can't unthink.
Yeah, so it's scary, isn't it? When you dig too deep, you don't want to go. You can't go back.
Thanks, Cabbage Patch.
You're welcome.
No, but seriously,
Merry Christmas.
Selfishness drives the economy on, just like it drives on creativity, because you want to make the best painting to get the most money and get actually recognized for it, or you want to make the best movie. You want to be recognized in society. That's why communism inherently won't work, because you're not ever going to be recognized.
No, well, communism just has no incentive model. That's the problem with communism. Socialism, there is no incentives for anyone to excel. That's where socialism, communism fails.
Well, that's right.
There is no benefit to actually excelling because everyone gets the same. You all get the same quota.
The best argument that I've come up with against is capitalism isn't a great system. However, it's crowdsourced. Okay, you've got 7 billion people on the planet, each one putting in 1 or 2 man hours a day for the economy. When you move to a communist or a socialist model, you're going, let's go with the experts. We'll have 10,000 people who do nothing but handle the economy. There's no way that 10,000 experts can put out the same amount of manpower as 7 billion people doing their own thing. They might be amateurs, but the sheer number of man hours in capitalism outweighs anything that you could arrange in socialism. In order to even come close, you probably have to have 10% of your population doing nothing but economy just to get things right, and that still probably wouldn't work.
You won't get it right. You never get it right.
Yeah,
try
it's a simple matter of math. I will say this: in very small groups, 50, 10, 100 people, yes, it can work because there's so few people, and you don't need, everybody to constant. But when you get to a group of 10,000, 50,000, where you go above the Dunbar empathy limit, where it goes from one person's death is a tragedy, 1 million is a statistic. People don't care about each other enough for any form of socialism to work. It's just doomed.
The only thing that socialism provides is stagnation.
No, but wait a minute. My contention is selfishness in itself will drive innovation, because you want to excel for yourself at whatever it is you do. If you knit all day, you want to make the best damn quilt ever. You know what I mean? Like,
and the thing is,
yes, it's great.
And that effort would be worthless if it wasn't the fact that you are going to give something to that somebody is going to get something they want. right? That's the point.
No, but wasn't that Anne Ryan's contention also? Is that selfishness drives the economy and it drives innovation?
Well, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
well, kind of. Well, yeah. I mean, effectively, that's what Rand's core message was: is that selfishness, like
Yeah.
greed is good,
No, and
which
I'm
is
boiling.
exactly what came out in the original Wall Street. Greed is good. Gordon Gekko was a distillation of Ayn Rand.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm boiling it down to its purest form, the simplistic analysis. But that is pretty much the contention. Is selfishness will drive the economy, which is good because it will.
Well, no, it will. No, it will in times of plenty. It doesn't in times of scarcity.
Well, it will ebb and flow. It will go up and down, but it will always correct itself as long as you don't manipulate it and you let it be free.
Yes, but that's the problem because the people with the money have the power, and the power manipulates it. That's why you end up with things like subsidies.
And subsidies are wrong, but somebody go ahead and argue for regulation. Go for it. There's got to be somebody here.
I'm not going to argue for regulation. I think it's fucking hideous. I think it's the most ridiculous thing.
In fact,
as far as I'm concerned, you should remove all lobbyists. There shouldn't even be a lobbyist on the planet. That shouldn't even be a job.
I have to say that there's a couple places where perhaps, I mean, in environmentalism, I think that there are certain things to say if you want to keep forests, if you want to keep certain natural resources. That's where I think that there is some room for it. But how about let's think of ways.
Yeah, but again, you could crowdsource that.
Yeah, we could exactly. We could find ways that we could create voluntary organizations or even trusts that they would take control of these areas and they'd put it under a trust. Maybe use it to make those endeavors more profitable, as opposed to sometimes I remember Obama, he turned certain places into national monuments in order to keep them away from mining. Well, people figured out that these national monuments really aren't that special. There's not much to preserve there, and that he'd basically
wasn't that the pipeline?
Not the pipeline. It was a couple things I think in Utah and Nevada. The pipeline
you mean
was
fracking? It was a fracking thing.
Yeah, yeah, fracking or other types of mining, and it's and you know what? I'm somebody, I think that we should preserve like a lot of the, especially wildlife. I don't think people should exactly like try to artificially destroy entire species, and I have like problems with the way people overhunt sometimes, but the way regulation has worked, it hasn't really created an environmental a revolution. It's created actually an environmental regime in some of these countries in America. I don't know about you guys over in Europe.
Well, this is why vegans are dangerous.
Yeah, it's done the work. It's done. This is the wrong way to help save the planet. That's all I'm saying.
This is why vegans are dangerous. Right? If people were eating polar bear burgers, there will be a shitload of polar bears. People will be breeding them left, right, and center. You wouldn't have to go and see one in a zoo. It'd be like pig farms.
Also, not to mention the fact they're going crazy from the lack of proteins.
Yes, well, yeah, that too. But but the first thing that would happen, if everyone went vegan, it would be a genocide of every species.
Wait, though, I want to touch on the going crazy thing for vegans. Is that why Vegan Gains was dry firing his 9mm over and over on a video?
It's not conclusively proven, but there's a lot of evidence indicating that if you go strictly 100% core vegan and you say, I'm only having plant proteins, there's a few proteins you can't get from plants and you can't manufacture. They're not essential, but it tends to lead to the certain weird mental quirks because you're lacking, stuff that your brain kind of needs.
No, vegans are just the most tedious people anyway. So,
well, no, and I'm just saying it drove me absolutely insane watching him dry fire that pistol and ranting about bearing, just wigging out.
Yeah, well, he always does that.
Yeah, but if you're strictly 100% true blue vegan, and you're not getting any animal protein, I mean, you don't need much. It's like have a slice of ham once a week.
Dick.
But that's, whether they like it or not. We talk about people who also, I'm not having eggs. Eggs have a lot of the proteins that they're lacking in everything else. But if you're not eating eggs, you're one of those vegans who won't even wear like animal leather shoes.
Yeah,
you're going to have problems.
Yeah, and by the way, now there's an interesting one, right? They won't wear leather shoes, right? So the animals died anyway, so they're willing to let that be a waste of a life. But then they're willing to wear plastic shoes. And how many animals get destroyed? How many waterways and environments
I knew somebody.
get destroyed?
Oh, I won't have plastic. She wore hemp
to make the plastic.
She wore hemp. Feel this hemp. It felt like burlap. I would rather wear a shirt made out of nails and fiberglass than wear what she had.
We're going back to sackcloth and ashes. Jesus. You see, these fuckers will take us back into the medieval times. There is nothing good to be gained from
it's because everything science is evil and everything nature is good, except that nature's trying to murder you.
Yeah. No, they're fucking nuts, these people. They really are. And like I said, they're the most tedious people on the planet, and all they want to tell you is why your life
No, they're not nuts if you understand.
And again, they're like social justice warriors. They're like social justice warriors. All they want to do is tell you how you living your life the way you do is somehow, impinging upon their fucking, their feelings, I guess, their sensibilities. It's pathetic.
Well, as an observation, I work with people who are actually coming out of mental hospitals, and I help them get back into society. A couple, but let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
Well,
the main thing I've noticed about paranoia and people who believe in conspiracy theories, which echoes a lot about social justice warrior, is it has one consistent theme. There's someone to blame, and there's some way of gaining power and control by being the one who knows that nobody else knows. I know the truth, and it gives them power. That's what it's about. It's the same thing with these paranoids. It's the same thing with the schizophrenics. And it's the same thing with the social justice warriors. The same thing with cultists. It's all about having some imaginary narrative that allows them to control the world.
Yeah, delusional. Paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic, delusional.
See, here's the difference between us and them.
Add the word delusional.
I guarantee you. Let's have a hypothetical. A social justice warrior comes on here and has actual arguments, and we cannot refute them, and she proves to us that feminism and social justice warrior is right, proves it enough that we are actually convinced by evidence and reason and proof. Would you become a feminist if there was actual arguments and proof?
No, never. Because the word feminist is not about equality.
She has definitive proof.
Doesn't matter.
She has definitive
No.
proof.
By the very title, I wouldn't do it.
Even if there's proof that it's the best thing for the world.
Doesn't matter. No. On the basis of the fact that it is clearly not. Because you can't call
it... No, I'm not saying that it is or isn't. I'm saying she proves it is.
Can you imagine if they called it maleist? No. If it's feminist, no. Not one hope. If it was somebody who was for equality, then yes, I would. But not somebody who's a feminist.
But assuming that in this world, this imaginary world, you don't know that feminism is bad. And she proves definitively, and not with imaginary stuff, actual stuff that you can't refute. She proves that feminism is right. You wouldn't change even though feminism was definitively proven right.
No, what I'd say is that I believe in equality.
You would ignore facts.
I would just say I believe in equality, and if those happen to be things that title
was proves that feminism is actually equality.
Yes, well, you can't prove that feminism is equality.
Well, no. I'm saying it's
feminism by its very definition. Well, in an imaginary world, I mean, this is a ridiculous hypothetical. The fact is,
no. See, that's the thing.
If you put a gender into the title of your fucking, into the title of your agenda, then you can't claim that you are about equality or whatever. Yes, but that's what I'm
see, if somebody came to me and actually proved it, if they actually proved it to me, definitively, to the best of my ability, where I could not refute it, I would say I was wrong.
And I tell you what, if that was the case, then they would have been arguing for equality. Therefore, it wouldn't be feminism. And yes, I can agree with equality. I have no problem with equality.
If somebody proved it to me, I would.
Doesn't mean you got to adopt their title.
No, Cabbage, what he's saying is, If you are
I
proven,
understand what he's saying. I
well,
understand exactly what he's saying. He doesn't seem to get what I'm saying.
I get
I
that
know,
you
but
can't accept it under any circumstances. I got that.
No. You're not understanding it on the fact that I'm saying that it is about the actual title that they give themselves, right? They call themselves feminist, right? Now, can you imagine if somebody said, well, maleist, right? This is the point. If you're looking for equality, that's fine. But when you want to stick a gender onto the, attach a gender to it, and then claim, well, we've just proven what? If you've proven something and you want to call it feminist, then it means that you've proven something whereby women get, a preferential treatment. If it isn't that, then it's equality. And if it's equality, you don't need fem at the beginning of it. There's no fem-equality. There's no mal-equality.
But see, that's the difference between, I don't need to believe in equality. Like, I believe in what's best for humanity. And if equality is best for humanity, I'm for equality. But if you could prove to me that equality wasn't good for humanity, if you could prove it definitively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 100% convince me, and I had like all the time in the world to refute everything you were proving to me, then I'd be against equality, because I'd be like, well, you proved it. You proved that I'm wrong. I've got to go with the facts.
Here's where me and you differ. I'm for what's best for the individual, not necessarily all of humanity. I do believe that what's best for the individual is best for humanity.
Oh, I agree with that too.
But I may be wrong in that point. I don't cop into Hillary Clinton's "it takes a village to raise a child." It takes a mother and a father to raise a child, or a mother. Like, I had my oldest by myself. I raised him myself for a few years, but it was obviously better now, that I'm married and we're all settled down and we have a family. You know what I mean? It doesn't take a whole village. It takes individuals to do it.
Well, you got to understand, in my position here, 10 years ago, you probably would have called me a social justice warrior. It didn't exist back then, but a lot of what I did, I fought for the rights of people who are quadriplegics. I fought for the underdog. I probably was a social justice warrior. But then somebody came along and proved to me definitively that what I was doing was actually causing harm. Okay? There was a point where I stopped helping people and we were being harmful. And the moment that you proved to me that my course of action, that what I was supporting was wrong, I stopped supporting it. Okay, there's a lot of people who dig their heels in, they're definitively on their case and saying, no, I cannot imagine any situation where I'm wrong. I got that. I got that. That's your way. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. But for me, personally, if you could prove something, I will go with the proof, even if I don't like it. The problem I have is a lot of people out there, it's not on just one side or the other, but a lot of social justice warriors that I've tried to talk to, you can't even get past that hypothetical. You can't even say, what if there was? Okay, look, we're in a different universe. It's an entirely different universe, different reality, different laws of physics. No, I can't accept that. That's where I have a problem. Okay, you can convince me that I'm wrong. I doubt you could, because I have been trying very hard to prove or disprove what I believe, and I think I've pretty much encountered all the arguments at this point.
Well, and that's why I even started my YouTube channel, was to debate. If you can change my mind, change it. But I doubt Richard Spencer will make me a white nationalist, and I doubt Hugh Shives is going to make me an SJW. No matter what.
That's why I would love to have them on. I would love to have them on for them to try, because I would think that would be a great test. It'd be a great way to test my faith, test my beliefs and say, am I right? Okay, hit me with your best shot. You're Rick Spencer. You're the, nationalist, whatever you are. Okay, give me your best argument. And I'm ready for that argument.
Well, no, and the thing is, with Richard Spencer, me and him would agree on a couple things. We would agree on the removal of the Confederate monuments. We would agree, well, maybe that's it. that might be it. But we at least would have that to where I could talk to him about that. And then we could argue and I can call him a cunt. You know what I mean?
Well, there's some parts of there's what I call cultural supremacy and genetic supremacy. I can't get behind any of his genetic supremacy, and any argument he comes up with, I'm ready for. because I've looked into all of them. But cultural supremacy, what they're doing with multiculturalism now isn't that. It's monoculturalism. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy all cultures and make one. And so if you support multiple cultures, you need to keep the cultures separate. That's the bottom line. I don't think that any one person has to be of a certain culture. Well, I will say I severely doubt that anybody who's grown up in, the Congo is going to do a good job, living among the Eskimos. All right.
Yeah.
I don't think people are completely interchangeable, but there's a lot of adaptability among people. But culture is very regional. It is. You can't have a Congo culture in Alaska. It doesn't work. Okay,
No,
it does not work among the snow.
You know what's funny on the other side? I listened to Star Trek videos, like theory videos or lore or whatever. Maybe an ebook every now and then. And I was laying in bed listening to it like through my computer speakers across the room. And then suddenly Steve Shives started talking. And I'm like, what? No fucking way. And he does Star Trek videos. And he actually popped up in my feed. And I had to I was almost asleep. I had to snap awake and be like, that's Steve fucking Shives. No. Not listen.
You want to know something really weird since you brought it up? Feminist Frequency has been reviewing Star Trek Discovery. And while they're trying very hard to like it, they don't. That's how bad STD is screwed up. If you've lost Feminist Frequency, nobody likes you.
You know what? And I would like to point out, okay, we have been calling Deep Space Nine DS9 for 15, 16 years. Why the fuck did they name Star Trek, the new show, Star Trek Discovery? Did they not know STD was going to be a thing? Come on.
That is how clueless these people are. That is why I think, honestly, the writers have no idea. I don't think any of them I think they went through all the old shows and just stole whatever they could. And that's why I truly believe that they're plagiarizing that one guy's point-and-click adventure. Because it really seems like they haven't come up with anything original. Like, they have stolen everything. Their spore drive thing, well, that was the one original thing that they came up with, and it turns out that might be stolen too. So that's why I have no faith in anything. They stole a bunch of stuff, changed it enough so it's their own flair, and then tried to point it off as, Star Trek, when it's not. If they made it its own series, I wouldn't be bad with it. I mean, if it was like, welcome to the dystopian future. Okay, well, all right, I can get behind a dystopian future. Probably not going to watch it because too much gore and swearing for my taste. But okay, I'm not going to slam it. But
wow, you don't like swearing? How do you even watch the RedEye?
I don't like swearing. I don't like swearing in my TV shows. It's jarring. It takes me out of the immersion when I'm sitting there and saying, "What? Wait a minute. I'm trying to forget that I'm watching a show." Some shows, it's part of it. Some shows, cursing is part of the show.
Well, no,
but I'm not immersing in this. I'm just talking. It's just conversation.
We've been going for a little over 2 hours, so I want to wrap it back around.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, probably a good place to wrap things up.
Well, I want to wrap it back around the Star Trek real quick, and this is what I would have done, and then you can say what you would have done. Okay, I'm creating the new Star Trek show. I don't want to do after the Dominion War for some stupid reason, because that's what I would really do. But they didn't want to do that. I would call it Star Trek Anthology. I would start immediately after Enterprise with a different crew or whatever and do a season of that. Right after that, building the Federation. And then I would jump forward 20 years and then have the Klingon War in season 2 and so forth. And then once you hit TOS, you skip it. And then you jump to the Enterprise C. And you do in between that for season 4 or 5 or whatever. And you keep doing that and you fill in all the empty space.
Actually, you know what? That is a brilliant idea. I wouldn't do a whole season in one area. I'd only have 1 or 2 episodes in an area. But yeah, actually, that's a brilliant idea. That probably would have worked very well because then you could constantly change around You could, bring on new people and then get rid of them, so you wouldn't have to worry about being tied to any one given staff. Heck, I'll be honest, Star Trek Continues really strikes me more as an anthology, really, because the episodes don't really flow from one to another. They're more like, hey, here's a gap we found, and we're going to fill it in, and it works. So yeah, I would go with the anthology thing. I think that'd be infinitely preferable to what they tried. I doubt they'll ever do it, though. It would require, really creative writers who love the material, willing to, be adaptable. That's not happening.
Yeah, no. And right before I let you shout out your channel one more time and your Twitter, I just want to say they could have made the Klingons work if they make it to where it's in between when they got hit with that virus, or it's right before that. So they looked like that. Then they got hit with the virus. They looked like TOS Klingons. And then the virus started to fade away, and they started to look like TNG and the rest. I could see the Klingon look actually working. And that's my last thoughts on it all. I'm going to let you wrap it up, actually. So this has been the RedEye stream. It's number 41. Please like and subscribe. And you have the floor. After you're done, I'll stop the broadcast.
Okay, well, the only thing left to say about STD is it is exactly what the name says. I don't think there's much else to go into it. I like the anthology idea. Don't watch the show. If you're interested in Star Trek, go see the fan versions of the Orville or Star Trek Continues. At any rate, it's been real and it's been fun. I'm not sure if it's been real fun. I've been Unthloth Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers, and you have been on the RedEye. Thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a pleasant evening.